much material though you used tonight, Nathan, for the bloopers.
There's no bloopers. There's no bloopers.
There's no
tonight.
Bloopers, so it'll be blooper free. Well, we'll see. I flew the drone over the area that was burned by the forest fire.
Oh yeah,
the wildfires. So I got some cool shots.
I wish I could have done that.
I mean, really, there's no use crying over spilt gas. So,
all right, Ben's ready. Are we ready?
I sent him the link to his Yahoo email address.
Okay. It said he's standing by. He said standing by, so I don't know what that means.
I don't see anybody trying to enter. There he is.
Okay.
Should I let him in?
That's up to you.
Speaking of bonus material, that should be live right now.
What? So I meant, was it on Facebook or YouTube? Sorry. I said the same thing twice.
It's got 4 views already.
Really? And we're not even on.
I wonder if it's my internet tonight. I'm getting a little digital reception for once. This has never happened.
Yeah.
That's Pennsylvania. That's what it does.
Yeah, that could be. Is my image coming through clear to you?
You are clear as day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, you're clearing up now, Chris. Ben. I'm doing it right.
Every time.
I'm sorry.
You don't even know me.
I don't even know you. My only issue is that this is the one that records it. So anyway, it's good to see you again. Sorry.
Yeah, likewise.
I was a little distracted. Yeti bars. And we've got a Squatch Talks podcast code now.
Sweet. Yeti bars. That is soap or
soap,
okay.
Lotions, and deodorants.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as none of them smell like Squatch balls, we'll be okay.
Squatch snatch.
Yeah. What do we do now?
Awkward.
Yes. Is that a skull behind you?
Yeah, that is a skull. This is a skull of a Homo heidelbergensis.
I loved everything you said thus far, but that was kind of like a little warm up.
Hey, we can from the top. Take it from the top.
You're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I guess we'll start over and get this show on the road. Ready? Here we go.
All right. Squatch Talks Podcast.
Welcome.
Hey, so
and
how's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well yourselves?
Doing
better
really
and
good.
Better.
Great.
Yeah. Great to have you on the show with us tonight, Ben.
Happy to be here. It was great meeting y'all back there in September of last year at the expedition there in Pennsylvania. Been following y'all's podcast since January, and it's an honor to be on here. My first podcast. I'm tracking, so hey,
we're honored to have you. You know,
you're my fire.
Your presentation was great at the expedition. Everybody loved it. Unfortunately, I was under the weather at the time with my back, and I had to go lay down. But
you missed a good one.
I know I did. I could hear most of it, but I didn't get to see the PowerPoint. I mean, that was a nice professionally done thing.
You had the audible version. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I was really impressed, and you brought up so many points that were food for thought. Yeah. And it's just uncanny though how I think you did yours on Friday night. Was that when you did your presentation, Ben?
Yes, right after Charles's brief. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Friday, and then on Saturday, I think I had, which you would call a time variant. So I was kind of
interesting. I heard y'all talking about that. Yeah,
we'll get to that for sure. But
definitely,
I just never, I never thought that. I mean, Nathan did a great job putting together all these speakers and presenters, of course, and I just never imagined that it could be so professionally done, like with the PowerPoint and everything. And in the dark, it's just as it got dark, we had the screen up there, and you were, in front of the whole expedition crew, and man, everybody was fascinated.
Yeah,
I mean, this was a hats off to Charles for bringing he had the PowerPoint, he had the computer, he had the screen, he had the projector, so he made the whole thing happen.
Totally. Well, hey, it was a team effort,
It always is.
Nathan did a great job delegating for sure. And I always love being like the attendee versus the organizer, and
well, I didn't let you do much of that though.
Well, I had to fill in. You weren't
Made
feeling
your work.
great.
Yeah.
And I love doing the track casting demos, of course. But
Yeah.
hey, this upcoming one, though, we'll be sharing a lot of the workload again. So I don't mind that at all. I can't wait to our next one.
It'll be a good time.
So,
Smaller.
Definitely.
Definitely smaller.
Okay.
So,
a little more intimate. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Less investigators, less people altogether, you know.
Right.
42, I think it was just too many people.
little robust.
Yes.
A
We all
lot.
had a good time though. And Delwyn, I mean, you can't beat having a Native American give you a blessing on the night you go out, you know. That was really nice.
That really topped things off. In fact, on that note, I had the Apache tier you gave me from Delwyn in my pocket today while we were out tooling around the Pine Barrens. So
yeah,
little extra protection. But no, I'd like to really welcome Ben Christian to our episode tonight. And Ben is in Pennsylvania with Nathan, but a little further west, if I'm correct.
Smack dab in the center of the state.
Yeah.
Right. So he's out there.
Closer to the Pacific Northwest of Pennsylvania.
Nice.
2 hours drive.
So did you want to just give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So growing up, I'm from New Jersey originally, Northwest Jersey. So the good part, not the bad part. And growing up, my elementary school was fortunate enough to have a pretty strong selection of crypto books that had Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, the Yeti, Makilma Bembe, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And so I got these books out, read about them. So at the time, I think like most of us, not knowing more about the subject, it's like, okay, Bigfoot's like, some solitary ape that walks around. They're in the Northwest coast. They're in Northern California, Washington State. Never crossed my mind that they could be, anywhere else. After that, it was something I was always interested in, but never had anything that really struck me as being odd or strange up there in the woods. Until one time in 2008, myself and a buddy were canoeing down the Delaware River, put up in by Port Jervis, up there at the very tip of New Jersey.
Right.
And where New York and PA all meet together.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal was to get down to Washington's Crossing, just north of Trenton.
Wow.
So we put in there it was on a Friday morning. And we got all the way just south of Route 80 on the Water Gap when night fell. It was probably mid-September. And by that time, we were probably 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. And we're canoeing. We have no lights, a little small, like 11-foot aluminum canoe. As we're paddling silently down there, we get under Route 80. We're going around the curve in the river. And so we can see the street lights off to the left where Route 80 hugs the Jersey side. No, there's nothing on the PA side. And so we see the Black Hills left and right. See the stars, there's no moon, so very low illumination. Mm-hmm. And so we're paddling and we run aground on some shallow rocks. I'm in the back of the canoe. And Jesse, my buddy Jesse, he's up there in the front. And so just as I'm getting ready to get out of the canoe and give us a shove off, out of nowhere, so off to my right, about maybe 2 meters, 6-7 feet away to my back right, big rock, like a melon-sized rock, comes out of nowhere, hits the rock, you hit the ground, riverbed, that sharp crack the rock on the bottom, water plume, a second one, about 3 feet away, my rear right. And then a third one off to my left. These are like melon-sized rocks. And then after that, I hear this off to my front left, and then silence. And I was terrified.
Wow.
I had no means of comprehending what just had happened because there's nothing above us. No one could drop anything on us. We were too far away from shore for anything to throw anything at us.
Right.
I had no conceivable idea of what this was. And to me, it sounded like a little sound. The silence was like, it sounded like hopping to me for whatever reason. And then I'm in the boat and I'm thinking, I'm petrified. I'm like, if I go in the water, a shark will eat me. That was what was going through my mind at that time. Completely irrational.
Right.
And then finally I was just, let's get the F out of here. Shove off. and we're throwing down like, what was that? What was that? What the F was that? And we pull in about half a mile down the river, pull in, and we're like, we're to stay here tonight. And we had no means of explaining what that was. And then so fast forward, I wrote down to that was a water demon. We disturbed a water demon and it chucked rocks at us. Because I had no other means of explaining it. It wasn't a human, because unless you had, I don't know, that giant Icelander guy from Game of Thrones, just chilling on an island in Delaware, chucking head-sized rocks at me for no reason. There's no other.
Well, I mean, a rock that size has to weigh.
Oh, easy 30 pounds.
30
I was going to say
pounds,
30, 40 pounds.
And I'm a pretty strong guy, and I could maybe get that, 10 feet, and I'm being very generous to myself in saying 10 feet.
I was throwing cement blocks last night, and they're not that heavy, and I was getting them like 6, and I'm a pretty big guy.
Damn.
So, yeah, a melon-sized rock, that's some power.
And so if it had hit me, I would probably not be here,
Talking
today.
to us.
Right.
Yeah. And so fast forward, about 4 or 5 years later, I discovered the BF4 website. And so I'm pouring through all the reports and reading them like every day, what's any new reports been posted up. And I come across a report from, I think it was Alabama, like northern Alabama on the Tennessee River, if I recall. And it was a kayaker, and he was kayaking down the river and started hearing these splashes coming around him. And he's looking around and looks, and up on the little bluff over there was a red-haired, ape man just chucking rocks. And so I thought, that's it. Like, that is the only thing that makes logical sense to me, that we had it was a Bigfoot that threw the rocks at us. Right. And in hindsight, knowing everything I know now, I think it makes perfect sense, because we ran aground on a small floodplain island there in the Delaware called Arrow Island. You can bring it up there on Google Maps. And it's like, half a mile south of the where Route 80 crosses over. Mm-hmm. And it's no human habitation because it floods a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And it's a covered, concealed position. It's a nice spot to, if you're traveling along the Appalachian Trail or along Continued Ridge, you stop right there, and the next day you kind of move on up or move down the river, move up the river. Maybe it was going north to south rather than east to west. But it's a secure, safe position. So I think what happened was we were going down, no lights, being dead quiet. So it didn't hear us, didn't see us, so it was not paying attention. And we ran aground. It was probably in the shallows, foraging for mussels or crayfish or what have you. Mm-hmm. Sees us, and I think in my mind, 1 rock, 2 rock, 3 rock, turn, step, 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 drop down, and then observe our reaction.
Right. Yeah, by the time it throws the rocks, then you're looking all around, you don't know where it is, and it can go for some cover and then see what you're going to do about it.
Just a complete it's like shock and awe ambush on us.
Yeah.
And for mine, I've been military for going on 14 years. And 2 deployments to Afghanistan, I've been shot at. I've had vehicles in my convoy blown up. Wow. I've never been more terrified in my life than that moment right there. Because of the sheer unknown of what I was facing at that time.
You're in a canoe, you're not supposed to be getting shot at. And I mean, not that you should be getting shot at any time, but I can't, when you're in a war zone, I imagine that your brain is a little bit more in tune to what's going on.
A little wired differently.
Yeah. And to be floating down the river and then have watermelons thrown at you or giant rocks thrown at you, that had to be. And like you said, though, you thought if you got in the water, you were going to be eaten by a shark. Yeah. And the water, you ran aground, so obviously there were no fish even there.
No, I mean, it was not like wasn't a fish jumping out of the water. I mean, the water was, we were in about a foot of water on the smooth river rocks. So you can float if it hit the right area, but if not, you were stuck on the rocks.
Right.
And did you say it was Schellenberger's Island?
No, Arrow Island.
Arrow Island, okay.
Yeah. It's like a big teardrop shaped island about half a mile south of the water gap.
Of the bridge, right? That 80 crosses over.
Yes, we ran aground on what I think was the northwest side of it.
Interesting, because that's a pretty hot spot area to begin with, as far as reports go. Oh, I see it. I just found it. I'm on Google Earth. Wow. Yeah, that's cool. That's near some active areas for sure. Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's all forest there. So yeah, I can definitely see the likeliness of an encounter such as that happening, But and we've heard of numerous stories, right? I'm sure you've heard other people from throughout history with people getting rocks thrown at them while they were in their boats fishing or just kayaking. And yeah, I'm sure it was probably an unnerving experience,
to say the least.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's when 2000. When did you say that
2008. So we're going on.
Yeah.
God, what was that? 14 years now.
14 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, hey, in 2008, I was on my first BFRO expedition, having a hand pressing in on the tent.
Nice.
In the early morning hours. So.
Very nice.
I know it was in September also.
I haven't had good month.
So I was terrified as well.
month.
Yeah.
My heart was pounding in my chest. So definitely we have that in common.
Yeah.
But that's an incredible story. So thanks for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
So aside from that experience, you also are an investigator though, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went and attended, I guess, an expedition. What was your first expedition?
Yeah, so that to start out, so in 2018, I got was in southern Georgia at the time, Valdosta, and this was my first time in lower 48 since 2008, pretty much.
Wow.
And so my great, now I can finally attend BFRO expeditions, because didn't have any in Alaska, didn't have any overseas, and so I'm in Georgia, and so I signed up for the North Georgia fall 2018 expedition with Lori Wade, and I attended that one, and was immediately hooked. Great people down there. She is a phenomenal person and investigator. Can't speak
Oh yeah.
more highly of her. She is just incredible, and great friends. Came back in the next spring for the spring expedition up there in North Georgia, and then in the fall of 2019. Lori had nominated me to be an investigator because I've been doing some research on my own there in the Valdosta, South Georgia area, and got approved. And then, so we're going on. It'll be about 2.5 years now, I guess. I've been an investigator on the JV team right now.
Now, after your presentation,
with
your presentation at my expedition, you made it to the varsity team for sure.
I appreciate that. Brought to the big leagues.
That's right.
No doubt. No, that was great. So she nominated you, she sponsored you to get into the investigator status. When did you move up to Pennsylvania?
So for PA, I moved up here last summer. In July. Yeah.
Okay.
So not quite a year.
Wow. So you were living up in this area though when you came on the PA expedition, though, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
July.
I reached out to Nate back in the spring of last year. Kind of saying, hey, this is who I am. I'm coming to Pennsylvania in the summertime. I'll be here for number 2 years of change. I'll always help you out. If anything I can do, let me know.
Right.
And so we started talking about the expedition, and there I was, and here I am.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
I
think your recommendation came before you contacted me. Lori called me like right away and like, Ben's up there. Great guy. He'll do anything you need.
Utilize his efforts and specialties.
There we go.
That's right.
So
I'd love to touch on your presentation a little bit too. I don't know if you have other questions, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask him real quick before he goes into the presentation.
Certainly.
Did you also assist in northern New Jersey back in April? I know
I did. Yeah, help Larry out there.
That's right.
They're ripping his team.
So did you attend or just do the scouting?
I was there.
Tour?
Yeah, I led scouting. Went out there. Let's see, 1, 2.
So
2, 3 times before, and then for the expedition itself.
It was a fairly small group of attendees, if I'm correct, right? 10, 15?
15, 18 people, if I recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you at liberty to share any of the activities that happened? I mean, it was a really good group. Had some people from Connecticut that were newbies, but they were really enthusiastic about the whole
whole environment. The area definitely is it's a Squatch area.
Oh yeah.
I'll leave any of the sexy details for Larry to talk about his end.
Okay.
But we had a really great response there that final night. We did one of the attendees had a really powerful bellow, and so we utilized that to try and elicit a response. And he did two calls, and after the second one, we had this immediate just power whack, the power tree knock, and it was like the entire group was there, and it was beautiful. It was like a textbook, just bang, would knock. It's almost like our inference of it was that whatever had heard the bellow from our team, it's like, oh yeah, how about this? Whack as a response, like, I'm here.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They want to say that.
I'm bigger than that.
Look what I can do.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, I've been trying to hook up with Larry and get him to, divulge some of the details, but he's been busy and I haven't.
Yeah, he's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on.
He does. So he's going to be doing another one in October from what I understand. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll have the same kind of results. But
I think so. Yeah. It's Squatchy up in North Jersey. It really is.
Oh yeah, he definitely has some good areas there.
I've done a number of expeditions up there, and Larry, I made Larry a co-organizer on a couple. That's how he became an organizer as well. So I can speak from experience though with the knocking type response. Right out in BC, the organizer's wife wanted to try to do a wood knock at base camp one morning. It was Saturday morning. And so she grabs the baseball bat and goes over to the knocking tree and hits the tree. And literally 2 seconds after, a tree gets pushed over. Nice. As if to say, here, you, that's all you got? Here, look what I can do. Just pushes a tree right over.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that is a common type thing where they'll respond from a provocation with something a little bit more, in your face.
Slight escalation of force, as it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's cool. I'm glad everybody had a good time and made it out safely. But I thought I remembered just reading a post that Mike Young had put on something, and you commented about how you were driving across the Pocono mountain range.
Yes. On 84.
Yeah. So, and he was saying how he didn't, realize how large the Pocono mountain range is, and but potentially there could be a lot of encounters, obviously, so. So anyway, getting back to Nathan, go ahead. I'll let you pick this up, Nathan, with the presentation.
Yeah, because I didn't get to see as much of it as I would have wished to on the expedition. But if you could tell us a little bit about it and tell us a little bit about your research and what you came up with.
Definitely. So the research itself, so my base theory is that Sasquatches are a member of the genus Homo, the same genus as Homo sapiens, Homo Neanderthalis, Homo denisovans, Homo floresiensis. And so all your more recent, now currently allegedly extinct hominids. So we're the allegedly last surviving one. And the reason I say this is because it's based on the theory of the Neanderthal predation theory, and that's put forth by Danny Benjamini. He's an Australian filmmaker, but very well-educated man, and he wrote a book called Them and Us. Find it. Go right there. We can see that right here.
Oh,
not sure. But his whole argument is that it was Neanderthal predation over the course of approximately 50,000 years that led to humans becoming the way we are and how we look so drastically different from all the other ape species in terms of our outward appearance, our skeletal structure, our behavior, our intellect. And it was all done as a survival response to this continual Neanderthal predation. And that what Neanderthals did, they took this very, kind of generic, timid hominid in small family groups that was more of a scavenger than an active hunter, and turned us into these Machiavellian, highly intelligent, genocidal killers. And that we ended up taking And this is the behavioral cause for all the reasons why you look racism, the concept of them and us, the other, of an other being out there that human groups will coalesce against and take the fight to, or to separate ourselves from. One of the biggest things I think you find is a very fascinating theory, and this sub theory is why humans are so hairless compared to all the other African apes, or apes in general. And so you get most of your stock theories, humans lost their hair because they got into the savannah and losing the hair kept them cool, but they kept the hair in their head so to keep the sun. Okay, well, that's the case. And how come there are no other animals in Africa that have lost their hair as an adaptive response to the sun? Because hair itself does act as an insulator. And they find on temperature tests on various animals that the temperature under the hair is cooler than it is on top. They're exposed to the heat and the sunlight. And so his theory is that humans became hairless due to sexual selection, that it was a response to favoring those who looked the least Neanderthal. Because his whole theory about Neanderthals is that they were not these sister species that wore clothes and had culture like we did, that they're just a little shorter, a little stronger, a little stockier. He argues that these were apex ice age hunters. That these were, and there's another scientist describes them as wolves with knives, that these were strong hunters that hunted everything, to include other hominids, and they would hunt us and or our ancestors and eat our ancestors. And so anything that looked remotely like a Neanderthal was bad to these early human bands there, because they come out of Africa into Near East. They're in Israel, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. And just at the same time, Neanderthals had come down from Europe through Turkey, Anatolia, down into the Levant. And so the Neanderthals, humans were another prey species. And the Neanderthals, attacked at night. If you look at this skull right here is Homo heidelbergensis, which was a predecessor species to Neanderthal. Looking at the skull right there, so the eye sockets, it's how much bigger they are than human eyes. And he argues that this was due to be able to see at night. The larger eyes allow for a larger expansion of the pupil to let in more light, so they can see in low light conditions. And so it's the reason why humans fear the dark, because he argues there's a theory called the team theory. Trauma, I forget the term, it's like trauma-enhanced emotional memory. And these are emotions that are encoded in our quote-unquote junk DNA. Because we talk about the survival of the fittest, those who have, the black moths on the soot-covered trees will survive, while the white moths get eaten by the birds. And then soon that trait will get through the population. Well, the team theory he's developed, that has evolution informed by the emotional trauma received by the parent. So it's not necessarily that the parent is, I'm going to work out, and because I have bigger muscles, my kids will have bigger muscles. It's more along the lines of a constant psychological fear, the fear of the dark, fear of things that don't look like you, being encoded. And it talks about how it's like baby birds can recognize the shadow of a hawk, even if they've never seen a hawk, but they'll ignore shadows of other birds. So along that same line of behavior modification. And so in a nutshell, so that created humans who then coalesce into a single small group, which is supported by genetics, which shows that our population shrank down to about 50 individuals that survived to pass on their DNA to all of us modern humans today.
50?
He argues that 50. It got to a bottleneck population at some point in time in our history. His argument is that it occurred there in the Middle East due to Neanderthal predation. What that did was it selected for all these traits to be put together in a single small group, which then coalesced, hardened like a diamond, and then began to expand outward. And you had a combination of intellect, of creating tools, weaponry, most likely the use of bows, atlatls, thorn spears, where we can engage the Neanderthals at a distance and be able to kill them before they could kill us. And this was then the start of humanity's expansion outwards. And his argument is that anything that looked like a Neanderthal was killed. And so piggybacking off of that on my end, so my thoughts are, I think we did the same thing to every other hominid or near hominid species. We only stopped when either we couldn't find anymore or they were completely different, like chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans. Okay, this is more of an animal than an other human.
Right. So we left that alone. Yeah. I see where you're going. Yeah.
And so my thoughts are that Sasquatch and depending upon if you want to, again, which is another great discussion, another point in time, you have all the other ape men, man apes there in Europe, in Asia, like Russia, like the Yowie in Australia, the Uran in China, your Almasteves in the Caucasus, the Almas in Mongolia, the Chuchuna in Russia, the Leshy in Russia. Are these all the same species? Are they other regionally adapted species? But I think what ended up happening was that our own predation, our own tactics, techniques, and procedures that we used to wipe out Neanderthals were applied broadly the same way to all these other populations. And so these other hominid populations in turn, they had their own genetic bottlenecks, and they were selected for traits to be stealthy, to be active at night, to avoid humans, to fear dogs. And so a lot of the accounts of Bigfoot, for example, you see lots of in the cases where they'll kill dogs. You'll find dogs with necks broken, flung against a tree. And so I think this is part of that innate response that these things are a danger to us. Well, they may not necessarily know why, and like why is a little small dog a danger, but it is a behaviorally encoded fear and a response. We got to kill this thing because
we domesticated them and used them to help us hunt them.
Exactly.
And so now they have that built into their DNA to fear dogs. Yeah.
And furthermore, if they did have any type of technology, that would be abandoned because it's very easy to find a campfire at night. You don't have a campfire, you're much harder to find.
Right.
So then see the abandonment of any type of cultural technology that did exist. It has happened in human societies. You had the Aboriginal Tasmanians in Tasmania once they moved all the way down south there, and then when the sea levels rose as ice caps melted, they were cut off, and their cultural artifacts shrank down to I think only 30. And the first explorers that arrived there from Europe found them. It didn't even have fire.
Wow.
Apparently, according to the reports.
Yeah.
They had a very, very primitive, as we see it, existence. Whereas the tribes just on the other side of the strait there in Australia had a much larger, richer cultural tradition, higher technology that had been lost due to isolation.
Wow. That's fascinating. It really is. I mean, there's so many different avenues that this can go. It's just fascinating. It is way above my level too.
How did you come up with this theory?
Just thinking about it over time. I read the book by Benjamini,
right?
And I think this makes a lot of sense what he's saying. And one of the biggest points also got to me is how we anthropomorphize all these other hominids. You look at, and this is my presentation, is a picture of all these modern recreations of Homo erectus, of Homo neanderthalensis, Homo denisovans. They all look very, very human. Even Australopithecines or Homo rhodensiensis in Africa, they've lost their hair. Some of them are clean shaven. They look like actors. And it's like, I don't think they look like this.
Right.
And we're letting our own biases inform how we depict these distant ancestors, because I think we want to see ourselves in them when that is probably not true.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure I would rather know that I came from something that looked like me instead of something that looked like a gorilla. I would, I can see where people would want to make that image be more human, even if it wasn't. Yeah.
Where's it going with this? And so I think, with Bigfoot, I think I think that they are Homo. So not just because of the evidence I presented, but also they have anecdotal accounts of hybridization between humans and Sasquatch. I think I'm sure we have all heard of Dr. Ketchum's Sasquatch DNA experiment that found in her findings that Sasquatches are a hybrid species between with a Homo sapiens mother mitochondrial DNA on the mother side, and then an unknown species on the male side. So I've read another book, if I can find it here, Dr. Haskell Hart. He wrote a book about, it was essentially a refutation, but he went through and he looked at the evidence she presented in her paper. And so the biggest glaring aspect he identified was that at the time she did her publication, the database that she was using was still a work in progress. Most critically, it lacked black bear DNA. And so he ran her findings again through the updated database, I think as of 2019 or 2020, and that these unknown DNA samples end up being black bear. And the other samples that were found were also identified as human. Now, this is where he identifies this as interesting. I find it very interesting. Is that these three particular samples showed mutations that are not found in known human populations. And so these were found in New Mexico, British Columbia, and I want to say Oregon, not if I remember correctly. So disparate locations, hundreds of miles, if not thousands of miles apart, yet all showing length mutations that are not found in modern human populations, or at least among the known data set.
Right. So you're saying it was human mitochondrial DNA and black bear DNA?
Well, it was, she found as unknown primate in her publication, in her her article. And so Dr. Haskell Hart, he found that the unknown stuff was black bear, and his book is excellent. It's very above my head. I'm not a geneticist. I would need to read it a couple more times to get a better sense of the nitty-gritty details that he talks about. But the biggest takeaway I had was that these three samples that were classified as human, identified as being human, had these mutations that are not found in the known human DNA data set. So I look at that, and they look at anecdotal reports of Sasquatch's breeding with humans. You have in Russia, I'm sure you've heard the story of Zhanna, the ape woman there in the Caucasus.
Right.
She bore several children after, unfortunately, being raped by the local men there in the village. She was kept captive there essentially as a slave. But she was described as being 6.5 feet tall, reddish brown hair, dark skin, could outrun a horse, could swim across the river, didn't wear clothes, slept outside, didn't like being inside heated buildings. And the children she bore, they looked fairly human. And so another scientist, a British scientist, he passed away during in 2020, I think due to COVID. He went there and he did DNA tests on her known descendants, because her descendants are still there and can trace their ancestry back to this ape woman.
Right.
And so he got their mitochondrial DNA, and it traced that back to the L haplogroup, which is the oldest haplogroup in the human family. Because as you had the L group, I guess, was the initial group, and then as one group branched out, became H, and then HN1A, then it branched out further as each group spread out and is distinct and independent from each other.
Okay.
So her mitochondrial group was the oldest one known to the human family, yet her appearance was completely different from any modern human that we know of. Then you look at, I can bring that up here, my end. There's another podcast, the Sasquatch Tracks podcast. Excuse me.
Oh,
They had John Mayachinsky come on there, and he has done lots of great work with Indian tribes out west. And there was a story with the Cheyenne, and it was from in the 20th century too, where women had been abducted by what they said was a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, and she came back to the village pregnant. And so her family took her down to, I think, New Mexico or Arizona, and to give birth to the child. And the child worked at a mission there until he was about 15, and he died. He was described as being very tall, had it's kind of heavy features, didn't really talk too much, and had a respiratory problem that led to his ultimate death.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at Raincoast Sasquatch by J. Robert Alley, which is a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it yet. There are two accounts in his book. He writes about a woman being abducted by Sasquatch and giving birth to these malformed offspring. So that tells me that if we accept these stories as true, that Bigfoot, Sasquatch is, or at least within North America, and if not, clearly they're in Asia, you have the DNA is similar enough that you can have offspring. In the case of Zhanna, viable, fertile offspring, because she has had descendants.
Right.
And
Zhanna's the one that was in Russia, right?
Yes, in Abkhazia, and what's now in Georgia. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Felt Russia.
Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting story,
So,
of course.
And that goes along with, like, horses and donkeys have the mules, and they're sterile.
They're sterile, yeah.
So you're saying that it has to be close enough to have viable DNA to produce more offspring.
Yes. And so you look at more along lines of like wolves and coyotes. I mean, they've been separate for 500,000 years as species, yet they can still interbreed. And the same thing with wolves, dogs, coyotes.
Right.
Or you look at what other species we got up there. There's actually a surprising amount of hybridization that can and does occur. Camels and llamas, actually, they've been apart for well over 1 million years. They can breed and have viable offspring because they have a common ancestor.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
And lions and tigers too.
Lions and tigers with the liger.
The liger.
Yeah.
Well, and
That is
that
fascinating.
holds true with stories we hear from native peoples throughout their timeline of history, that they lived side by side with these
definitely.
wild men, right? The hairy giants that would come down and steal their women, right? And there's been reports of them also impregnating them, which is, something that dates back quite some time as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was speaking with another gentleman, an anthropologist named Tom Carey, and he's actually an author of a few books about Roswell, and the UFOs. And in his opinion it was, I think it was called Megapithecus Megapithecus robustus. I'm not sure the exact terminology, but that's who he really firmly believes is the descendant of Bigfoot. Now, the thing I disagree with, and I told him this on a podcast we were on together, is that he talks about it having 2 sagittal crests. And that's where I feel it kind of diverts. Okay. This, skull portion has 2 sagittal crests.
We're talking like the one, so not just one,
not just
but
one,
like
but
2?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I feel it doesn't make sense. And I had brought up Gigantopithecus blackie, and he said, oh no, it's not that, but I have to say that I really kind of go along with your idea about the what's it called? No, don't tell me. I was on the tip of my tongue. The hermaphroditus.
Heidelbergensis?
Homo heidelbergensis.
I was closest.
Homo heidelbergensis. Yes, that one. That's a mouthful, but no,
I was closest.
That really does. And the skull you have
Yeah.
behind you, it really does look like it could be. You know, if you were to put all that reconstruction on like they do with the forensics, that would probably be a squatchy looking head, you know?
Yeah, I believe so.
I got a slide there in that presentation. And it shows, I think it's from the Canadian Bigfoot Research Organization. I found it online there. Okay. But it shows a artist's interpretation of a Sasquatch without any hair. And it looks surprisingly human.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of reports we get in, of course, even through hunters with them in their sights, you know, say they can't pull the trigger because it looks surprisingly human, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
The skin might appear more leathery or, you know, different shades of gray or black, and their eye sockets, you know, of course, I don't know. It's just, there's so many stories we hear that makes it sound like it's a close relative, right? Yeah. Could that be the missing link? I don't know. Everybody talks about a missing link, you know.
I don't think
what.
Yeah, exactly. I never understood what the missing link was. What was it linking?
Well, they're saying
to
between
the
apes and
humans,
Homo sapiens. Yeah.
But again, that kind of supposes that you have a direct line from the gorilla link human.
Right.
But you really go look at it, it's more, and talk about like that bush kind of growing up. You know, you got a single common stem.
Right.
And as we all go up, we're all evolving at the same time, yet under different conditions, different environments, different selection pressures. So we are no more advanced than a chimpanzee or a gorilla or a Sasquatch. They just didn't have any need to adapt to the nature of the way we did.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely goes back to we're all the same person though. We're all from the same place, you know. That's the important thing, I think.
Now, was it Meganthropus that your friend said?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the things I'm sorry?
Does that ring a bell, that term? I don't know if I said it correctly or not, but
yeah, Meganthropus. It's called like Meganthropus.
That's it.
Meganthropus. Yeah.
Meganthropus robustus, I think, was the second part. I'm not sure about the extension.
Yeah. Not Megan the Stallion robustus. Not that one.
I'd have to go back and check my notes.
Not a problem.
They're not sitting there, but that definitely is the first portion of the name.
That's one of the so talking about the fossil record. That's another thing I find quite fascinating, is that we make all these scientists, they've done incredible work in going out there and finding these bone sites and excavating these skeletal hominids from hundreds of thousands to millions of years ago. But yet they're not finding complete skeletons for the most part. They're finding like a part of a skull, some teeth, a jawbone, a finger, like the Homo denisovans, the recently discovered. It was about 10 years ago, I guess. They're in Russia. They found it off of a pinky bone and some teeth, and that's how they classified it as. They were identified as being different from everything else and as a separate species.
Oh yeah.
What's also fascinating, I thought, is that the tooth that they found is 18 millimeters in width. It's almost twice as big as our molars.
Oh wow.
So I don't know what that means. Like whether they had a really big jaw almost our size, or the teeth were proportional to the actual height of the and size of the creature. Like how big would a human being be with 18 millimeter molars?
Wow. Twice the size. Wow.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and also in your presentation, you had discussed, in addition to the evolutionary aspect, you had brought up some other pretty interesting things about time variations and some other neat things that I found fascinating. You want to go a little bit into that?
Yeah, happily. And so my biggest thought with that is, a lot of people attribute all these, abilities, these paranormal abilities to Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I have an open mind. I will follow wherever the evidence takes me. If it takes me that, Bigfoot's come out of interdimensions riding unicorns, if that's where evidence takes me, I will happily follow that down to the letter. But everything I've seen, I've experienced, has shown to me that I think we are attributing a lot of this to these paranormal things are happening, I think there's a correlation, but not causation. I don't think that Sasquatches are ones who are causing all this strange,
right,
paranormal behavior.
The high strangeness isn't necessarily attributed to it, but it seems to happen at the same time.
Same locations. I think what they do, I think they seek out these paranormal locations because they know people don't like going there. We don't like going to a place where we feel uneasy, where, you know, we see these orbs, where, you know, we get these weird time variances. So I think they know if we go here, there's less chance that we're going to be found, we're going to be seen, and they will leave us alone. But I think so. Any things that are experienced there are because we just happen to be in the same place at the same time as Bigfoot in these, you know, more paranormal active areas.
Right. That's something I've been trying to, and we developed Trace to do just that, to try to differentiate between what is being caused by Sasquatch or Bigfoot and what is happening at the same time for a different reason. We think that they're being abducted just as we are, you know, and there's all sorts of other paranormal stuff that happens out in the forest. But like you said, that's a pretty good, interesting adaptation on why they would go to those places and why they would be happening at the same time. Yeah.
That's my thought. And also another thing. So looking at the BFRO database, that we have access to the flats, we can see all the reports have been submitted. And they're all categorized in different classifications, whether class A, class B, class C, misinterpretation, so on and so forth, or paranormal UFO. So I went in there one time and looked at the base in terms of sheer numbers. And at the time I did that, there were only 99 paranormal UFO reports out of well over 70,000 reports submitted.
Right.
And so of those 99, I went through and did a sampling of 33 reports, so 1/3 of the reports. And of those, the only 3 actually specifically mention a type of UFO or direct ghost type events occurring. Everything else could be classified as misinterpretation, as a regular encounter, or just something completely else that was misclassified. So we're talking about a small percentage of the entire submission of the report database.
Yeah, I think a lot of the woo reports we get are people that just don't know the woods at night that well. I know Russ brought that up last week too.
Definitely.
Most of he thinks all of it, but I think there is that few out there that are really experiencing something abnormal or paranormal, and I think that it's worth investigating too.
Oh,
I'd love to
100%.
know. I'd love to know what else is going on out there.
Yeah, I think every report needs to be looked at and investigated at take at face value, do investigation, and then make the follow-on conclusion whether or not is it a valid, that this regardless of what ever happened, did this occur or not, and if it did occur, well, why and what is it?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I mentioned you had discussed the time variations, and when we were on Nathan's expedition in Pennsylvania, we experienced what I would consider a time variant that, the 3 of us who had gone further up on the hillside and had done some back and forth provocations, when we were coming back, on the way up, I had looked at my watch and said, oh, it's 1:34. Wow, time flies when you're having fun, and then on the way back, after we had been up there a while, I looked at my watch again, and I think I said, what, it's only 12:30? The night is young. And that was strange. Plus we had some other things on the way up with the seeing our breath, the wind whipping up, the disruptions we had with the ability to hear the other group and everything. So there was some strange things that occurred there. On our recent expedition out into the Pine Barrens, where we did a satellite camp, Nathan and his brother-in-law Brian and myself hiked into a trail that just went straight into the woods from where we were located by a pond. And on the way back, we had hiked in maybe 40 minutes, hung out there for another 20 or 25 minutes while Nathan took a little break with his back aching. And on the way back, we were at the entrance to that trail in like what seemed like 5 or 10 minutes max.
Right. I've been talking about that with Brian, and he said, we did stop a lot on the way out. I said, I know, but we stopped some on the way back too. We didn't just walk straight through.
Right. It just seems so much faster. And I think to myself, well, when you drive somewhere and then when you drive home, it tends to seem like the drive home went faster. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but it was, again, an odd occurrence. Plus, very interesting. The correlation between, I think it was my jacket zipper malfunctioning and your jacket's zipper malfunctioned as well. I mean,
and Brian's was messed up at the bottom.
Strange.
Yeah. So I don't know.
All 3 jackets were malfunctioning.
Yeah. We were abducted. That's what it was. You never know. We might have been we might have been probed. You don't know. We'll need some.
I hope not.
Yeah, I know. We'll need some hypnosis, and we'll figure that one out.
But I usually appreciate if they buy me dinner first.
That's right.
Like you're wined and dined.
Yeah, well, we did get Lucille's after that, so that makes up for it a little bit.
True.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that definitely makes up for it.
You go there sometime.
Oh yeah, you got to. We got to take you down to the Pine Barrens and then take you out to Lucille's. You can stand in front of the Jersey Devil, get your picture taken. Yeah, they got a big wood carving of the Jersey Devil out there. And probably the best sausage gravy this side of the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
That's saying a lot.
That's a bold statement right there.
It's pretty damn good, I can tell you that. And that's fat guy approved, too.
Yeah, Brian enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Our co-host, Brian Spinner, who I should mention was going to be on with us tonight.
Yeah.
Joining the podcast with Ben, but scheduling interfered. I'm losing my background.
Yes. We're having
one piece at a time.
Yeah.
That's
wardrobe malfunction.
That's Henry. That's the local ghost. Okay.
Oh, okay. Hi, Henry. What's up?
Hey, Henry. Knock it off.
Knock 3 times.
Brian will hopefully be back on with us next week, and as we're recording tonight with Ben, a bonus material episode aired at 8:00 tonight.
Yeah,
so hopefully you enjoyed that. And that was from Nathan's house over the weekend, where Heather and I went up to join him and Terry and their family for a graduation ceremony, right, Nathan?
Yep.
Congratulations.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. The youngest one, we called her Bait. She's now graduated high school. She's 18 now, and she started squatching when she was 8. So
wow,
that's for life.
Yeah, she has more hours logged in the woods in the dark than most people have in the woods.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
It's impressive. Right. But I mean, Ben, you do a lot of bushwhacking hiking too. You don't really go by trails all the time, do you?
No, I like to go off trail though, when I can.
All right.
Time and situation permitting.
Right.
I've been a little bit around here. Found some pretty interesting stick structures back in March. Had a little spell of some warmer weather.
Mm-hmm.
And the snow melted, but still no foliage. You can see through the woods a lot better.
Right.
And
Pennsylvania has a lot of great, I think, tree manipulations. I've always had good success out there with the tree manipulations.
Yeah, I found some great stuff in the Bald Eagle State Forest. I found some great things. A couple of the WMA areas north of State College. Oddly, I have not found much at all in the Rothrock State Forest.
Oh yeah,
which is I'm just looking in the wrong spots.
Mm-hmm.
I've done some terrain analysis. Looked, okay, here's most isolated little valley here. I'm go check this out, see what I can find, and nothing. I'm not seeing the same. I find the checkmark tree breaks were slanted down. I found asterisks. I found arches, pinned arches. Others, big trees being laid up against others, and there's no stump down there below. And I found these in these other areas, but not in Rothrock. So I'm kind of at a loss as to why that is.
I'm not a big fan of tree structures. I've never been, and I'm I tell people that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know on a couple places where we have the expedition, we found tree structures, and there was like 50 of them, and they were all small. And I just don't care for them. But the best one I ever saw, and this is the first I thought of this to say something. It was my first expedition, and we were going around, and there was a tree, and you could tell it was upside down. It had been cut off. You know, it was a saw. So somebody cut this tree down, but it was the stump for it was probably 30 yards away or more. Something brought it over to where it was and stood it straight up and down, upside down, next to another tree. And the only thing holding it there was little twigs. And as soon as you moved those little twigs, the tree just dropped. It was fascinating. So we tried to stand it back up again. There was 4 of us. We couldn't even get it up off the ground.
Wow.
So there was the only marks on it that were mechanical made, man-made, I would call, was the saw cut on the bottom, which was up in the air. And the top, because it was cut off flush. But there was nothing that would have made it look like they used a machine to stand it up. There was no road to get to where it was either. But and that wasn't far from the Appalachian Trail. But that was the only tree structure I've ever seen that was decent.
It's funny though, because I'm like completely opposite, and for many years I've been investigating the tree manipulation phenomena, you know, and I've come across so many different things, which I know there's snow loading from wintertime, there's wind, microbursts, all kinds of different natural causes. But then you have to, you come across ones that are they're just
how do you explain it?
Yeah, they're just beyond that easy explanation. The twisted ones, that are 3-4 inches thick. Okay, I've shown pictures on previous podcasts where I came across 2.5, 3 inch, trees that were just twisted off about 1.5 foot off the ground and laying there alongside the trail. And this was an old trail that hadn't been used in a long, long time, and there was no heavy equipment or anything around. So, I mean, that's an odd find. Okay. PA though, I have to say, on my first expedition, I did a lot of solo scouting during the day, and I came across some really amazing like giant X's. And these twists that I'm talking about, and the pinned, arches and teepees. I mean, it's just amazing, and the different glyphs and things. And I know for a long time there was a lot of dispute, especially in the BFRO on the blue board, where people kind of hesitated to talk about these things, and I caught some slack from it early on. But now, even though now Map Moneymaker is starting to be more, I think, open to discussing it and looking into it more, but I found correlating, structures on the Pacific, we call it the Pennsylvania Northwest, the PNW. Okay.
I like that.
And in the Eastern Pocono Mountains, where we did some investigation as well, I found really similar types of manipulations. And the really neat thing was the mini types of structures, like under a mountain laurel grove. Okay. I'm the one who will go in the mountain laurel grove. Okay.
100%.
And look for like nursery areas or nesting areas, that sort of thing. And I found interwoven things at the base of these mountain laurels. And then again, in a different section, have something so similar. And, I've documented it with, pictures, and they just look too close, and it's like, how do you explain that? So
I know.
I know the biggest argument against it is no one has seen a structure being created.
Right.
But I would say the counter to that, you have Christopher Noel up there in Vermont. He's done a long-term study up there, and he puts his recorders right smack dab on the structures he finds, and without, I wouldn't say without fail, but he does get activity recorded in the vicinity of the structures and on the structures. So I think that is definitely the one point towards these things being Squatch related.
Yeah. And a point Charles brought up a couple of weeks ago was that even in Native American lore, there's no real discussion about them seeing Bigfoots making these types of manipulations. So
but there is something with that, because I remember talking to Delwyn about that, And they used to manipulate certain trees, certain kinds of trees that would manipulate well for their purposes. You know, they would
Trail
make
markers. Yeah.
they would make different shapes of different trees over the years to mean different things, like the buffalo go this way or the waters down that way. I remember him telling us that, and seeing different trees, you know, they'll go up maybe 3 foot, they go across 3 foot, and then they go straight up. That was manipulated and
Intentionally,
kept like that,
yeah.
right, by the Native Americans to show something. So if Sasquatch really does watch everything we do, and we really are their entertainment, were they watching the Indians do that back then and say, oh, we can, you know, let's, and maybe they're not doing it for the same reasons, but maybe they took some of that, what they saw, and are using it for their own benefit, and you know, whatever.
Territorial markers. We've talked about this. I think it's definitely
makes sense. Yeah.
I do think it's a possibility. Even, hey, careful, there's a road here, so there's an arch, you know what I mean, or an X that says, hey, just be careful.
Yeah.
You know, people crossing.
People crossing, exactly.
You know. Hey, do you have any other besides your encounter that you had on the water at the Delaware Water Gap? Is there any other stories you?
Oh, let's see here.
This is what we like to hear about. Our
the
stories.
Here. So going back to Georgia, so I was at WMA just north of Valdosta with my family, a little walk. It was summertime, hot, so we're talking, 90 degrees, South Georgia, equally humidity. And so we're walking down this little trail there, and I'm holding my daughter. She was 6 months old at the time, 7 months old, and I hear a branch break, and I look to my right, and I see this upright black figure dart from behind a pine tree, into the thicket, and it was just like that. And it was like the upside and the profile, but to me, I infer as it's like shoulder, a head, pointed there in the back, just moving as quickly as I snapped my finger.
Didn't look at you, just walked straight forward.
I walked or leapt, or it
whatever,
moved just quickly and silently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't explain what that was, because across the between us there's about maybe 50 meters of those palmetto frond thickets, which are about 4 feet high, 5 feet high. So whatever it was at least 5 feet, if not 6 feet, up in height. And so someone wearing all black, upright, out there in WMA where it's not hunting season, where there are bugs, briar patches, snakes. It's not the most conducive environment to bushwhacking down there in the South.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first experience in Georgia I had. Another time up in North Georgia, the expeditions I was at, my first one, myself and John Eves, another great investigator out of Georgia and North Carolina. We were up this one trail on the ridge, and so we had a small trail, and John was on one side, I was on the other. We were looking at each other, and he tells me he sees behind me a red light went just across the trail at about human eye level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I'm looking that way, and I see down to my lower right, I'm looking down the ridge, I want to say it was probably 15 to 20 feet away. And these two glowing red eyes just looking and just moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then gone.
Wow.
And didn't hear anything. And we were just like, whoa. I had a flashlight on me, but I didn't even think of trying to light up whatever it was that was looking at us. And so we after that, we shined our lights, and then we didn't see anything. A little bit of a disturbance down below there. In the spring expedition, we saw there's a stump that's overlooking. We were on a little satellite camp away from the main camp, and we're getting ready to go to a camp meeting there to figure out what the plan was going to be for the rest of the day. And so I'm looking there, and John goes, "Hey Ben, what's that up on the hillside?" And I'm looking like, it's like a stump. And then we're looking at it for a few minutes. I get my binos and looking out, and it's just kind of 3-4 foot tall. It looks like a stump.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, we'll check that out when we get back. So we go to the main camp, come back, and we're looking, and John goes,
Stump gone.
I don't see that stump anywhere. And I walk up right there where he was down below. I walked up there and didn't see anything.
Wow.
It's what we call a squatch stump.
Yeah.
Squatch stump.
That might have been a squatch though. That's
Then another time up in Tennessee, which was a great one for the Tennessee expedition in 2019. Was that it? Yeah. And we were walking down. This was on the second night. Or preface that. So I get there on a Wednesday, so before everything kicks off. And so another investigator from Indiana, John Noble, he and I go out and scout out all these 5 trails on the one eastern side of the state forest we were looking at. And so we went down, and we probably walked 20 miles at night. We were like 2 miles down, 2 miles back each one. We got there like 8, came back at like 3 in the morning. We were dedicated. We were dedicated. we were tired afterwards.
Yes.
But we're walking down one of the trails. It was the third trail. And it's quiet. John's in the lead. He's got his red Knox headlamp going on. And so I step down, pick up a fist-sized rock. I don't say anything to John. I just turn, I just throw it as hard as I can into the woods off to my left. And it hits a tree, just a perfect knock right there. And John turns, like, what's that? And when he did, he caught something pop up. He sees 2 big red eyes. And it's like looks left, right, left, and then down.
Wow.
And out. And to me, I interpreted that the presumed Sasquatch said it was, had been watching us. My rock throw caught it completely off guard. So it pops up, eyes wide open, like, what the hell was that? It's like, oh, I'm caught. No, because his light caught the eyes. It was like right, left, right, and then down. Well, we didn't see any facial features. We saw like dark and these like the big, reflecting red eyes at that time.
Wow, that's really good. I was very, very pleased with that. Hey, we got that on audio too, which is pretty neat. John had his audio recorder going that night.
Cool.
And later on, so 2 nights after this, so the next day they had found a footprint on another trail, another part of the forest, and so we had gone back the next day to cast it. So I was there, and I got my binos, and I'm looking. So we got the footprint team. They're trying to cast the print they found, and I'm scanning back and forth and looking. And I see something like, what is that? It was like semi-triangular, almost like, here's the top, and kind of came down, and here was a tree. It was kind of like this. If you can see there on the picture. And that's a clump of leaves. So I'm moving, like, where'd it go? I'm like, okay, it's not there. Okay. Not there. Not there. It's there. Okay, what is this? And it gets other investigator, and I'm like, attendee. I'm like, hey, Mark, come here. All right. So I walk him in on whatever it is I'm seeing. Like, keep your eyes right there. I'm gonna flush it out. So I walk, towards it. The moment I stepped off the trail into the woods, this thing takes off.
Wow.
And so Mark saw this. He described as a younger, more juvenile looking. It was like light build, all black. Figure just like run and just dart right away up the hill.
Wow,
that's cool.
Yeah, you've had some pretty good encounters.
And,
we definitely have to bring you along more often. Sounds like good luck.
I mean, again, for every every time there's an encounter, you're looking at least 10 times you're out there and nothing happened.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of these people don't realize. We don't go out there every time and have something happen. You might go out 30 times and you're skunked every time.
Exactly.
Got to be where they're at.
Yeah, I do want to say one more thing, one more encounter. Most recent one I had was maybe 3-4 weeks ago at another WMA off to the west of here. I went there at night, was driving through. I stopped, do a knock. see if I can elicit a response of some kind. And so I get there, and the second stop I do a knock, and I hear these like unearthly howls. Like, I've never heard these howls before. I'm like, what is that? So I'm listening. I like howl back. I'm using howls in response. I'm like, oh wow, this is cool. It sounds like they're getting closer. I'm like, oh, what is this? This is okay. I got my truck here. Okay. So another howl, and they're it's really strange.
Really?
Like it didn't even sound canine to me at the time. And then as like it goes on, I'm like, hold on, like those dogs. As it turns out, some guys were running beagle puppies.
Oh, beagles.
They had like, I don't know, about a dozen beagle pups. No,
we've heard that in the Pine Barrens. Yeah.
And
it's
beagles
freaky.
can make some strange freaking noises.
Sounded really strange. Oh yeah.
But so after that, I keep going down as I drive a few miles further down the trail, stop again. And I get out. Of course, me stupid, I turn my audio off at this point. I'm like, okay, the beagles, no, there's nothing out here right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna catch anything. So I go out there and do a knock. And then what do I hear? I get a knock response back off to, I'm guessing maybe 100 meters off to my front left, or I guess at that point in time, like southeast.
Wow.
Then a bunch of barred owls start going off, like right after the knock, because it occurred right beneath them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear these 4 deep, resonant breaths. Like, I can't even describe. You could just sense there's like the bass in these breaths, and they're moving from just like from right to left, just
wow,
all the way. And it wasn't a deer, because I'd heard deer earlier that night do that snort, that alarm snort, and it was not a snort. I know that deer can run through and their foot will hit a log as they run through, but you hear the movement as they do that.
Right.
The log. It was so I'd
And
strongly
the audio
believe,
was the audio recorder was off, of course. So.
Right.
yeah, because
Squatch curse.
Squatch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
that's
that
pretty
I
cool.
thought was very
You have to
cool.
get
So I
back out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully it's only like a few miles away from my home, so I got the ability to easily check that area out.
I gotta move.
Wow. In our areas, we've definitely found it to be more active in the spring and fall versus dead winter and heat of summer. So I think this is a great time. It's getting already to the heat of the summer, of course, today. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting encounter for sure. I like it.
That's the most recent thing I've had, and I'm hoping to get a whole bunch more.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if you keep getting out there, you will.
That's for sure. Can't have the experience if you're not out in the woods.
But you haven't gotten out as far as the Allegheny Forest yet, right? You haven't been
Not
out
yet,
that far.
although I am going there both this coming weekend and the weekend after.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
I got a family camp out there, in little state parks.
Okay.
And then again, going to visit my in-laws, and we're gonna test out them watching the grandkids. And so I'll be in the area, but they live right near the forest. So I'll pop on down there for an overnight and see what I can stir up.
Awesome.
Very
That'll
nice.
be great. Well,
yeah.
Let us know if you find anything. We'll have you back on.
Sure.
No, missing 411. Let's go, baby.
That's right.
Well, make sure, I said this last episode. Make sure you let somebody know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Last known sighting was.
That's pretty cool.
All right. Yeah, that was great. We got to have you on again.
Happily.
That was great. Yeah.
Well, and before we let you go, I just want to let our viewers know that we have aligned with Yeti Bars, and a great bunch of guys out in New Mexico. It's a couple of brothers that are making these handmade soaps that are using organic ingredients. And I tell you, they're really nice guys, and they do everything in small batches using organic ingredients. So if you go to the yetibars.net website and you place an order and click in the code STP10, you'll get an additional 10% off your order.
Very nice.
Show them the love. and I'm waiting for my order to get here. I can't wait. But yeah, they got some cool stuff and some swag and some, in addition to the soaps, they've got some lotions and some deodorants. So looking forward to using the products ourselves. And
Yep, the ladies have been looking through the website, waiting to see how much my order is going to be.
Yeah, I think the shoot is the one I'm going to get for Heather. It's a more floral type scent, I think they said. But yeah,
Okay.
looking forward to it. So YetiBars.net and STP10 is our code to use if you want to take advantage of some savings. So thanks for supporting them as well.
Yeah.
Love supporting local business. They do a lot of charitable work as well. So just want to bring that up. And hey, can't thank Ben Christian enough. Cut.
You can't get past that.
Let me remember my Squatchin name, Chris.
Dude,
hey, Chris, get over here.
I think there is something with that. I don't know what it was, but on the expedition, I told you Chris the entire
Every
time.
Yeah.
And you didn't correct me until like the last night. So now it's locked in my head. I want to thank Ben for being our guest tonight and sharing his stories with us. A lot of great encounters and the theories about the oh my gosh, the evolution of Sasquatch just blows me away, and it gets better every time I hear
Happy
it.
to be here.
Yeah,
Happy to help.
Yeah. Hope our listeners enjoyed that, and there's more to come. And don't forget to email any questions and
Watch
and
Talks
stuff.
Podcast at gmail.com. Going to start our Squatch Talks Q&A, right?
Yep.
Calling
At
it.
the end of the show, we'll read
show.
questions and answer them. So I'm sure we'll have lots of questions about Ben's.
You can leave questions. You can absolutely
I hope
leave
so.
questions in the
Send them on
comment
my way.
section. Yeah.
Yep.
Send the questions to the comment section or the Gmail account. Absolutely.
Yep. We'll make sure he gets them and we'll give you the answers. That's for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Ben. And
Hey, anytime, gentlemen. Thank you.
we'll see you out in the trail soon.
That's right.
And
Will do.
give us a like and a share. And what do you say, Nathan?
Thanks for squatching.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like. And stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.
Oh, you wanted to subscribe, didn't you?
Nope.
Like, share, and subscribe. Sasquatch.
That's right.
I wanted you
share,
to say thanks for
subscribe.
squatching. You owe me $20. Come on.
That's right. $20. Thanks for squatching.
All right, gentlemen.
We're gonna get up
Stay
early.
well, stay safe.
Stay squatchy.
And Ben, also thanks for your service, by the way.
Yes, thank
I don't
you.
know if I told you before, but
No worries. Appreciate that. Thanks
all
for
right,
the
and
support.
have a happy, safe July 4th. Thank you.
Y'all too.
All
All
right.
right.
Good night.
Night.
All right, cheers.